olvidar que es lugar feliz, es Playa del Carmen is in Mexico, on the Yucatan Peninsula on the eastern side, with the island of Cozumel right next to it. A common way to arrive in Playa del Carmen is to land at the Cancun airport, which is about an hour's drive away from Playa del Carmen. A good way to get to Playa del Carmen is by taxi, or you can rent a car. There are many rental agencies there at the airport. A good thing to be aware of at the airport is there are many different terminals. There are 4 different terminals, and some of them are quite a distance away, a few kilometers away from each other. So that's a good idea to keep in mind when you're navigating the airport, and also expect to be asked for tips if anybody is offering any kind of service. You're bound to run into these little guys in Playa del Carmen. They are called an agouti, and they are a rodent, and they're about the size of a cat, and they do not have a tail. If you are a fan of guacamole dip, do ask to get some fresh-made guacamole for you at the many restaurants there, and it's quite a show when they make it. They use all fresh ingredients, and of course the star of the show is the fresh avocado. And as you can see, they're adding some olive oil and salt and pepper, and they will be adding onions and tomatoes, as well as some serrano chilies and a whole bunch of lime, and it is delicious. So here we got sausage, eggs over easy, manchego cheese, and chips, eggs, I don't know if I ever said eggs, oh, and refried beans right here, and take our first bite. On the main walkway in Playa del Carmen, you'll see a lot of street performers like her, and they do rely on tips. So if you enjoy watching them, do make sure that you take care of them and give them a nice tip of about $2 or $3 US, which is about 50 to 70 pesos. Now, while it is nice to eat along the main strip, you will be paying about $20 to $30 for a full meal. But if you go up one of the side streets, and it is safe, a 5-minute walk maybe, and you'll find one of these local places where you'll get delicious food made fresh for you right there, and you will spend maybe $3 or $4 US on a big burrito like that, and you can get a beer right across the street and drink that with it if you want to save some money. And you are bound to find some very friendly locals there. So this is the... You may have heard about this green algae that washes up in Playa del Carmen called sargassum. And in the news, they often say that it is smelly and don't go because of it, but it was not a deal breaker. It was not smelly, and yes, it was in the water, but it's clean and it was okay. So don't worry about the sargassum. Don't let that keep you from going to Playa del Carmen. For about $12 US, you can get a ferry that goes across to the island of Cozumel, which is beautiful. There are a few different options for these boats. They're about the same price. They take about 1 hour to get you from Playa del Carmen to Cozumel. And on board they serve snacks and drinks, and it's a nice, fun ride over to the island of Cozumel. And it's about a 45-minute trip. Depending on what time of day you go and what time of year, it can be more crowded than others. This boat we took was a little bit crowded, but it was okay. We found seats and got there safely. Once you arrive in Cozumel, it's good to go south along the western coast of the island and find some good places to go in the water and go snorkeling. Or if you're a diver, you can find a dive shop and arrange for a dive boat. We decided to rent a couple of these motorcycles. We paid about $20 US for each one. You might be able to get a better deal, but we This is driving out of the city, the main city in Cozumel, going south, and we looked for some places to go in the water and just go snorkeling. Be sure to follow the traffic laws, such as going the proper speed and staying in the motorcycle lane, which in this case is off to the far right. In the city, the motorcycles seem to be going more to the left, so just look at what the locals are doing and follow them. This was our first stop. It was a restaurant bar right on the beach. You could have a seat, order a beer, and go snorkeling right there. And if you have a GoPro or some sort of underwater camera, that's good to have because there's lots of stuff to take pictures and videos of. This was a great place just to go snorkeling and some little bit of free diving, just maybe 3 meters or so. There's a lot to see. I like to use gloves, and also I like to put a little bit of toothpaste in my mask and smush it around and clean it. It keeps it from fogging up. Any kind of soap will do, but little tubes of travel toothpaste are real easy to bring along. The toothpaste works really well, and my entire trip, my mask never got fogged up. If you don't see very much in the water right off the shore in the first few minutes there, don't be discouraged. Keep swimming. Swim around and be on the lookout because there is actually a lot of ocean life out there. If your aim is to see a wider range of ocean life and colors and corals and bigger schools of fish, you may want to plan a boat dive and go scuba diving in deeper water. This snorkeling area here that you're seeing is right off of that restaurant area, and it's all in about 3 to 4 meters of water. After a nice day on the island of Cozumel, we headed back on the return boat to Playa del Carmen and planned our trip to Shellhaw Park. Okay, about to go in. This is Shellhaw, and I'm going to check out and see what I see. Shellhaw Park is located about 45 minutes south of Playa del Carmen before you get to Tulum. The visibility here at Shellhaw Park is not as clear as the open ocean because this is an area where fresh water from a cenote meets the salt water. So this is a mix of salt and fresh water, and it does make the water a bit blurry. It's not so good here because this is half fresh water, half salt water, because up there a cenote comes down with fresh water and it meets up with the ocean, which is out that way. So something to know about Shellhaw is wherever you go in the water, a life vest is required. Here in Shellhaw, there are these parrots just hanging out. Aren't they beautiful? This one's scratching its neck. Shellhaw Park is a really well-run and efficient place. The entry fee is about $110 US, but that includes all of your food and drink for the entire day, as well as access to the zip line and floating down the river from the cenote and the water slide as well. You also have access to a couple of cliffs to jump off of into fresh deep water that is roped off with buoys, so it's safe, and there are also safety attendants there to guide you. Shellhaw Park is quite large, so be prepared to do some walking, but the walking is done on these nice paths and it is quite beautiful, and be on the lookout for a lot of iguanas. So we are now up the river. Here we have arrived up further close to the cenote where the water is getting fresher, and we're going to take a dip. Here you can see again, it's almost as if you're looking through a blurry filter, but the water is clean. Again, it's just a mixture of salt and fresh water that does. Once in a while you might find some of this mossy substance that's in the water, but it's harmless. Here is one of the many iguanas you will find running wild. He's a pretty one. This little fella is about 1 meter long. If you look carefully, you still might find some pretty schools of fish in that salty, fresh water mix as you walk up closer to the cenote at Shellha Park. Yes. Ah! Who's that? Oh, there's a current here. You gotta swim upstream. Hold your balls. This is one of the restaurants. This is a buffet style. It's all included. They have food, all sorts of different types of food. They got desserts here, fried rice, Mexican food, spaghetti, salad, and drinks over here. This area of Mexico was once Mayan, and we learned from Francisco over there, a staff member, that many of the local Mexicans down there speak Mayan, or they speak a mix of Mayan and Spanish, and he called it Mayan Segundo, which is like a second Mayan. So it's a mix of Spanish and Mayan. And Francisco, in fact, speaks that language at home. This is the area at Shellha Park where you can actually pet a stingray. It does cost extra, but we were lucky enough to have this gentleman bring over the stingray so we could have a closer look and even stroke its back a little. Its back feels smooth and a little bit fuzzy. Like a little puppy. Ooh, this is a wavy bridge. And we found out that Shellha actually means water in Mayan. So this is a cenote. I've always wanted to go into a cenote. Oh, we're going down the river of life now.
Oh, look at that snorkeling, David.
So we're getting in the water here. I think this is where the cenote, this is a cenote that drains out into the ocean. And we're going to float through this area right here. This water here is fresh water from the cenote that drains into the ocean, and it creates a little river. And we're going to float down this river right now. So this is pretty cool. We're going to float down this area here. You can see there's some snorkels that have been left behind. Water's pretty clear here. It's about 73 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is in Celsius, but it's comfortable. Let's all get in here.
Did you get your flippers on?
Yes.
Oh yeah, good.
Yeah. Little jet power. Oh.
Noggin wonker.
Noggin Walter.
This is one of the zip lines you can ride on. As you're floating down, you just swim over to a place to climb up on a ladder and make your way down. I lost my hat here, and as soon as I am able to get out of this harness, I dove down a few meters and picked up my hat. Here are a couple very pretty schools of fish I saw while I was floating down. So this is right by the pier in Playa del Carmen. It's very choppy right now, more so than usual. The water is lovely, good temperature. Got some swells coming in, as you can see. But it feels great. We're gonna try to catch a wave. Not this one. We're gonna try to catch another one. Let's see what we can do. On my last day before my flight, I wanted to see what I could see off the beach there in Playa del Carmen. But this is more of a swimming area with a nice sandy bottom, as you can see, and there are a lot of waves that come in, and I did not see many fish or corals there, but it was still a lovely swim. I headed back to shore so I could rinse off with some fresh water and then make my way over to the airport and take my flight back to California. But not without first stopping off for some local food at a nice little place just a minute or two off of the main walkway in Playa del Carmen. And we got these corn tortillas with beans and cheese and chicken on top. It cost about $1 US, and it was delicious. I wasn't able to see the exact location of it, but it is all orange on the inside and on the outside. This road right here that the cars are on is 1 or 2 streets over from the main walkway, and it is by a 7-Eleven. It's right across the street from this 7-Eleven, and right to the left down that walkway is the main walkway. So it is very close. This is the area. Yep. Whether you are returning a rental car back at the airport or arriving in taxi, it's good to know which terminal to go to, because the terminals, as I said before, are quite far away and they are only reachable by taxi or shuttle service between each terminal. Due to corrupted files on my micro SD card, I lost all the footage that you just saw, but luckily the data recovery man was able to get it back for me.